You're listening to BusinessFlowShow.com. Let Andrew Roberts and Adam Sowden help you get more flow, freedom, and fulfillment out of your business so you can minimize stress and maximize enjoyment on your business journey.
Welcome to this excellent topic that I am really excited to be talking to you about today on abundance. I'm actually feeling very abundant myself today, and I can't wait to open you up into this area. I feel this is a critical topic, a really, really exciting topic to explore, and will absolutely lead to more freedom, more fulfillment, and more fun, and more everything in your life, in fact. And before getting into it, we've got Adam online. How are you going there, Adam?
I'm going great, mate, and I'm really excited about this topic because I think it's one of those very misunderstood concepts, and I'm really excited to hear, your point of view on abundance, and I'm also really excited to, I suppose, come up with a practical use. The term abundance, I think, gets thrown around so much, and it's a really powerful premise that we need to understand, but it's also a powerful premise that we need to integrate into our business and our life as well. So I'm really stoked about this particular topic that we're going to be talking about.
So the big idea and the big promise behind the podcast is when you're in the feeling of abundance, when you're holding on to that energy versus scarcity. We'll talk a bit about scarcity later on. You have this unquestionable knowing that everything in your world's going to work out. You have this belief that your business is going to work out, your life's going to work out, that everything's in order. And when you have this belief about the future, you have an energy that gives off a lightness. There's an energy of more fun, which I like to refer to it as a vibration. I believe that when you're in an abundant mentality, you're giving off a stronger vibration, and the vibration is positiveness, it's happiness, it's excitement. And this in turn will actually bring more abundance and more good stuff into your life. And Adam, I just for people our listeners on this podcast, why is that? Do you think that this vibration, this energy actually brings more into your life?
That's a fantastic question, and I don't really know. Like, I'm sure there's some people who understand the metaphysics of vibration far better than myself, but in my layman's terms, or in my understanding of it, when we're in that framework of abundance, we tend to just see more opportunities, and it's actually, I find it a really practical thing. Like, if you're in a good mood, if you wake up in the morning and you're in a good mood, you tend to see what's good in the day. Whereas if we wake up in the morning with a hangover, for example, which I did on the weekend because I had my brother's 40th, I woke up in the morning and, I normally love to see my children first thing in the morning, but I tell you, with the amount of whiskey we drank on Saturday night, I didn't really feel like seeing them first thing in the morning. So my point really is that the way you feel, I suppose, affects perception. And if you're in a good mood and you're seeing abundance, then I just think it opens you up to what's already there. Now, there's a saying, if you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're usually right. And the point is, if you think something's going to happen, we usually create like a self-fulfilling prophecy about it. And abundance is, you just see it so often when someone just has that mood or has that kind of framework in their consciousness that, there is an abundance. Life tends to just match it up. Again, I don't know the metaphysics of the situation and vibration. And to be honest, I don't really care whether about vibration. I just understand that it works. And that's the main thing that I'm interested in when it comes to abundance.
Yeah. So a great example to use here is a single guy wanting to meet a girl. Now, let's let's just use scarcity versus abundant thinking here. So scarcity thinking is there's not enough. I'm not good enough, and therefore I may never find someone. And over time, this scarcity thinking creates, if you like, Adam, an element of desperation. And the abundant mentality is there's more than enough. There's plenty out there for me, and I am going to meet something no matter what. Okay, and so there's a very different energy in those two people. And it's very clear that we don't even have to say what's the more attractive of the two. And it's interesting because the same's true in business that I've learned, and I'm going to give a couple of the stories here, but the same's true in business and around money, right? So you can have this feeling of abundance that there's more than enough. That there's this feeling of abundance when it comes to there's more than enough customers that can buy from me. There's more than enough money to go around. There's more than enough for me and the person 3 doors down, my competitor, for both of us to be extraordinarily successful. When you're in this abundant mentality, you stop worrying and acting really scarce and very tight. I mean, and even with abundance with money, you actually start becoming more comfortable investing it and allowing the investment to be into your making a better experience for your clients or whatever it might be, because you just have this feeling that it's going to come back. And it's a topic that I have been studying for 20 years. And the main reasons why I think this is so important for business owners, Adam, is I think there's 3 reasons. Reason 1, anxiety. Reason 2, stress. Reason 3, worry. Anxiety, stress, and worry are often the 3 of the biggest problems that business owners face. Would you agree with that? How much do you see business owners experiencing, one of those 3 or all of those 3 things happening?
Well, it's a great thing. Like, I mean, business owners are dealing with cash flow and staffing and etc. They're dealing with these issues in life every single day. But the real thing that they're challenging, like some people are not worried about cash flow, so it's not necessarily a negative thing. Some people are not worried about staff, so it's not a negative thing. What you're talking about there is this anxiety and stress and worry, etc. These are all this is what's left when you look beyond like the surface of a business and you look beyond the numbers. The business owner is generally stressed or anxious, and unfortunately, with stress and anxiety and worry, they're not like they're not productive, if that makes sense. Like if worrying about my business was actually going to make a difference, then I would encourage people to worry about it. But there is just no benefit to be gained from stressing or worrying about a business. My old mentor used to say, worry is the ego's illusion of productivity. Worry is the ego's illusion of productivity. So in other words, we worry about our business, or we worry about our relationship, or we worry about our children under the guise of productivity. And the truth is, it just compounds the problem, takes us out of flow. And in the case of today's theme, it certainly does take us out of abundance. So yeah, I just don't think they're the problems, or no one likes to worry or be anxious. But when you really understand it, I think that if you really understood that worry is actually completely counterproductive to your business, I think business owners would have would consider, think twice about whether they're going to stress about something.
Yeah. Well, look, this is a hard one to get your head around, what I'm about to say. Yeah. It's a critical one. Because when you're in, let's say the cash flow is bad, let's say that you've got more going up and coming in, of course that's going to create this element of worry and stress, which brings, just a quick question and a quick answer, Adam, when you're worrying about cash flow, is it expansive or is it contracting?
No, it's contracting completely.
Of course it is, right? So that's scarcity. Because if there's a feeling of contracting, so if you can appreciate expanding abundance, contracting scarcity. And so what I do with my clients when they're experiencing cash flow challenges is my first point of call is to get them back into abundant thinking. That's the very first thing that I'll always work on is abundance. And even to the point where I get them to visualize having $1 million. Well, let's just go simple, because that might be uncomprehendable from where they're at, but it could be, I need you to experience what it's like having $50,000 in your bank account. Because when you're in scarcity, you're in contracting, you're smelly. You're like the desperate guy trying to pick up. And you have no, but as soon as the flick switches back into abundance, I am enough, I have enough. This is the be do have. Once you become that energy field, that your vibration immediately changes from contracting to expansion, which ultimately puts you in a far greater position to actually attract the flow of money again. Because in the scarcity, in the contracting, you're smelling, and you can be having the opposite effect, pushing it away. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. With my mates and I in high school, you know, apart from football, the only other thing we were really interested in were girls, and we used to have in-depth. This is actually where I first started understanding the principles of flow and abundance, was in sport and with the ladies. And we had this one guy at our school, and he was an anomaly to all of us guys, because he wasn't necessarily what you'd consider, you know, the guy that the ladies would look at. But he just had, every girl was after him. Every girl was after him. And unquestionably, in his mind, there was like, he was just abundant with women. And and like, he always had a girlfriend, and he always had girls hanging around him, and we would go, what is it about this dude? Like, how come he has all these people hanging around? And some people you would consider like good-looking blokes, or had a bit to offer ladies, because of their attitude, the women were just completely turned off it. And mindset is, that abundant mindset, I think, is far more important than even process down the track. If you don't have that abundant mindset, if that's not in place first, all the process or all the strategy you implement down the track will be affected. And look, I've certainly seen that in my business as well. Get mindset right first before you tweak process, because quite often, mindset will just that shift in mindset will open you up to different possibilities. That come by your business every day. Yep.
Yeah, and just if we were to look at some examples of scarcity thinking, it's the worry of, if I put that team member on, I'm gonna go broke, rather than the abundant thought of, if I put that team member on, it's going to help me achieve a lot more. It's the scarcity thinking. Is another example. Is I better not let my competitors see what I'm doing, because if they do, they're going to rip me off and blah, blah, blah. The abundant thought process is, I'm going to go out and share with my competitors what I'm doing, because if we work together, we'll have a bigger result. The list goes on, and you can always look at, is this contracting or is this expansive? And I was doing a bit of research on this topic, and if we look, I want to just share with everyone, Adam, where did all this start? Because it's very common in our society for so many people can be scarce, and particularly worried about the future not taking care of itself. I mean, I think this is what stops so many people following their dreams, because the fear of failure ends up being stronger than the desire to succeed, and that causes the contraction. Hence the failure to take a risk or to take that leap of faith. And it's interesting, and I reckon it starts here, and it'd be interesting to see whether you agree with me or if you think anywhere else, but I reckon it all started when our world, if you like, went from the hunters and the gatherers and then it moved into the farming or the agricultural stage. So this whole revolution occurred where they worked out that they could create farms, if you like, and they could produce output and start stockpiling it. And a really simple example could be, it's winter time and there's a community living together, and what happens is one of the people in this community has worked out a way to stockpile some, let's say rice, some more rice to get them through the winter. Now what happens, the scarcity starts beginning and other people notice this and they're saying, oh wow, that person's producing some more rice than what I am. I better produce more as well, right? And this is what happens. So all these local farmers in this little community start comparing themselves with each other, and even if they get to a point where they've got more than enough rice, they'll keep going. So, and then this scarcity boils into it, and it's almost like a fear of missing out.
Yeah, right.
And I reckon it's just in this whole agricultural revolution where that creates so much comparison, so much desire to get ahead, so much of this whole mission for entrepreneurs to also want to produce and save up a whole lot of extra money on this fear of it running out or all these things, just like those hunters and gatherers. It ends up being a fear of missing out, or even though that there was always abundantly enough for them to survive in the hunter and gatherers, but the farming sector, it blocked almost this ability or this abundant thinking, and it moved into scarcity land. And I reckon that's where a lot of this all started. I really do. I think that it became a big comparison model and a big scarcity model of, what if I run out? What if I don't have enough to get me through the winter? What if I don't have enough when I'm older? How many people have that fear? That's just a fear. There's the thought process that you're not going to be looked after when you're older. Anything else that you can see from Adam, though, from your perspective, just in terms of where scarcity, started out? I was thinking that could have been just one major area.
Yeah. Well, look, there's a saying that a friend of mine told me years ago, Peter, who's he's a pilot, and they're very abundant. They've got abundant mentality all over them. And the saying that they said, that he told me was, he said, if you've got food on the table, you've got many problems. If you've got no food on the table, you've got one problem. And so basically, when you've got food, your basic survival needs are met, and you start looking at, well, now I'm surviving. Now I want all these other things. So I actually do believe it's in our DNA, for lack of another word, to we've come from ages in the past where people would starve and there'd be famines, and there's still countries in the world that have famine now, but in the first world countries like Australia and like America, the problem, I think, the main problem with this scarcity mentality is that it's so inaccurate and so far from what's really happening. Like, to be poor in Australia, or to be struggling to get by in Australia is like completely abundant in some other countries in the world. So my problem with abundance and, well, more importantly, scarcity is that it contradicts the reality that we're in. So we've got very wealthy countries. We've got generally got more than enough. We've got food on the table, and et cetera, and yet we still seem to go, I need more. I agree with you. The agricultural age probably did trigger the scarcity mentality, but I also think modern day marketing is perfectly designed to do that as well. Like, marketing is designed based on scarcity and abundance. You know, you don't have this thing, well, you need it. You don't have the new car and you need it. Like there's people driving around. It's interesting that people are driving around in real brand new cars with the latest gear, you know, the latest sunnies and the nice suits or everyone's, especially where I live in Lennox Head, people they want the new toys. But the reality is they probably don't need it. They bought it based on a scarcity mentality, and now they're going to spend a whole bunch of time paying it off as well. Now, this leads into what you were saying before as fear and worry and stress being the real issue underlying here. Like if I'm scared, I'm going to behave in a certain way in order to resolve the fear. That doesn't necessarily get rid of the fear. That just teaches myself to react to fear. Whereas the abundance mindset is the complete opposite of that. The abundance mindset isn't driven by fear. It's driven by opportunity. And that's you know, that's where I see the problem. Like if people have a scarcity mentality, you can generally have a conversation with them and, you know, like you said, you do with your clients, you know, get them to visualize having something. A lot of these people have got a lot already, and yet they're it's not that they don't have enough. It's not that they're not surviving. It's just that they want more, and that's driven by the scarcity mentality as well, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, does, mate. I totally believe you won't attract more, for example, money into your life until you show gratitude for what you've already got. If you're giving off anger that you haven't got enough, then that's scarcity, right? So I just wanted to share a story with you, Adam, following all of this, which might put it into context a bit more. And Paul McKenna is a British mentor. He's a hypnotic guru. He's an entertainer, but he's also does a lot of personal development work. And he wrote a book called I Can Make You Rich. And with that, I bought this book about 2 years ago, and with the book came a CD audio which you'd listen to, and it would hypnotize you on being wealthy, on you know, helping you become rich. I highly recommend it. I think the audio is fantastic. I listened to it for 3 or something months, and I just got a lot out of it. And it was interesting because in the hypnotic state that he puts you in, the entire audio that's going on in the background, if you consciously can listen to it, because you know often you'll be hypnotized and you'll be out of it, but it's putting you in an abundant mentality. It's putting you into the position as though you've already got the money. How would you feel with having that extra money? How would you feel waking up, et cetera, et cetera? And there's one story in there that I wanted to share, which just, it sparked another story that I had from university, which is amusing, but I think it's helped me. I was very lucky to have gone through something many years ago at uni, which has amplified my ability to behave more abundantly. So there's the story in Paul McKenna's audio is, he talks about this monk that was walking home one night and got home and found that his entire house had been cleaned out. Everything was taken away from him, all his money, all his belongings. And the monk just walked outside with a huge smile after realizing that everything had been everything had been stolen, and just quietly said to the moon, I bless that thief. I wished him success. He needs that money more than I do. And Paul McKenna is basically saying, you know, abundance is being totally cool if everything's taken away from you.
Yeah.
Okay? Until you've got that mindset, until you're comfortable with everything being taken away from you, you're not in abundant thinking. You're in scarcity thinking, because you're making an assumption that you're not going to be looked after again. It's not going to come back. You've got this fear that it's, shit, I've built this up, it's been taken away, it's not coming back for me. Whereas an abundant mindset is, oh, they need it more than me. no worries. I've got the skills and the ability to make that back, and I'm going to be looked after. Or that was supposed to happen to me. You know, that was
sure.
I was supposed to have that clear out, and it just prompted a funny story, and I really believe this is where I got my first taste of abundance. And just to share this with you, I was back at university, and I was staying with my girlfriend at the time, and she'd already gone off to university. I was 21, and I walked out of her bedroom at about 10 a.m. in the morning to go for a shower. And I was having a shower, and I finished showering. I was going back to her room, and next minute I look left, and there's this guy in her kitchen. And I was stunned. I didn't know what to do. I'd never seen this guy before, and he had his shirt off. And I said, "Mate, who are you?" And he goes, "Oh, shivers, I didn't see you there." And I went, "What are you doing in here?" And he said, he was in the fridge, in the kitchen. And he goes, "Oh, man, I'm so sorry. I haven't eaten for days. I don't know what to do." And I'm like, I'm a bit stunned. Right? Here I am in a towel. There's this guy in my girlfriend's fridge, and I'm like, not sure what to do. And so wow. I asked him what his name was, and he said, "I'm James." I can't remember, but I said, "All right, so you haven't eaten for days." I said, "I'll tell you what, mate. Sit down. I'm going to go and get changed." And I went and got changed, and I came back and I cooked him. I ended up cooking him a fee. I mean, it's quite ridiculous when I share this story, but it's a learning. And so I'm cooking this guy a meal, and we're having a good chat and finding out all about him. He's been homeless and blah, blah, blah. And my girlfriend came home, and she walked in the door and said, "Oh, hi, what's your name?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, James, this is Georgie, James." Introduced them. Anyway, he goes, "Look, I've got to go. Cheers, bro," whatever he called me, and shook my hand and out the door. And Georgie goes, "Who was that?" And I said, "Oh, it's just some guy." And she said, "What guy?" And I said, "Oh, just some guy. He was in your fridge. He hasn't eaten for a few days." And she said, "Oh, how did he get in?" And I said, "I don't know." And she went downstairs, and anyway, there was a smashed window. He'd broken through a window, which I didn't know about, and there was a smashed vase, and $1,500 of money was taken from the vase, which was her and all her flatmates' rent for the oncoming month, right? And it was sitting in his pocket, Adam. So I had just cooked a guy that had pinched $1,500 breakfast, right? So
yeah.
Anyway, it was funny because she was furious. Georgie was furious, as you could imagine, and I had to take responsibility. So I actually went and that's a lot of money back in those days. That was literally 3 months worth of working for me to save that up. But I remember thinking, I seriously remember thinking when I went and got the money out and getting it back to Georgie that he needed it. He needed it more than us. And it was actually an element of, I don't know, I felt good about it. It sounds crazy, but I actually felt good about it. So I paid the money to the girls, and it was cleared. And I remember, I honestly, that story floods back to my thinking, even though it's a story that I can believe. You can believe me, my mates give me a very hard time about it still. But
I don't know why, mate. But can I just Robbo,
yeah.
If you ever find someone in my house, don't cook them breakfast, just kick them out and send them to Macca's or something. Please never do that to me.
No, I will do that, mate.
I know what you're saying. It's a completely different way of viewing it. Like, some people would be mortified and probably need counselling, but in your case, you saw beyond fear, and you saw a human being who was hungry and probably didn't. In the long term, has it affected you and negatively? I mean, has Georgie? Is her life any worse off for helping a guy out? I actually think it says a lot about abundance, and in particular, your way of dealing with abundance. I just want to jump back to a couple of things that you've said, Robbo, that I think are really, really important. Robert Kiyosaki used to say to him and his mate, if you've made $1 million but you haven't lost it yet, you're considered a temporary millionaire. So if you've made $1 million and you haven't lost it yet, you're considered a temporary millionaire. And what that means is, like, And I think it ties into abundance here, because what he's basically saying is, until you know you can lose it and regain it, and lose it and regain it again, you don't have you might have created stuff, but you haven't yet stepped into the abundance mentality. This was the thing with my mates in school who did so well with women. They were never interested. Like, they didn't care whether the girl broke up with them or not. Whereas there's all these. My old friend, he's Darren. He used to say, you know, I don't do so well with women because all I can offer them is total dependence. And it was the most off-putting thing to have this needy kind of guy. And when you've got an abundance mentality, you don't need someone. You don't need the thing. You're not attached, which kind of relates back to this monk who's, you know, lost all the stuff, and he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He's got the abundance mindset. He's going to be looked after, and that to me is like I work on that with my clients as much as possible, because I think what I say to people is you must be okay to fail. In fact, failing is so important in the creative or growth process. The faster you can fail, the faster you can realize that you can do it whenever you want to. And I think, you know, this fits back into our schooling system where you're not meant to fail and not meant to make mistakes. But, you know, abundance mentality says, oh yeah, I can make a mistake. I don't have to get this perfect because there's another opportunity down the road. And I think that's the key to abundance. Abundance isn't the amount of stuff you have. Abundance is a state of mind or a state of vibration, as you said, that assumes a state of being, a state of being that assumes that there are many opportunities. Now, in Taoist philosophy, there's a saying, in the West, that we're kind of taught to have these goals and dream big and want more, and you know, West has a completely opposite to like Taoist philosophy. In Taoist philosophy, they say that we're born with 50 times more dreams than we can ever achieve. We're born with 50 times more dreams than we can ever achieve, and our job, it sounds horrible, but our job is to suicide our dreams. And what it doesn't mean. What it actually means is you've got to kill off the things that aren't important to you. We've got to kill off the things that aren't important to you. Now, I actually believe in our modern society where there is abundance everywhere, the problem isn't scarcity. The problem is our lack of willingness to make a mistake, and also our lack of willingness to decide on a path. I think they're probably the two most important things. If you're happy to just decide, I'm going to do this, and whether I get it wrong or right is irrelevant, I'm just going to go for it and throw my heart into it, you'll find that those people will make their mistakes, but they will succeed because they're playing the game and they're putting themselves in a position to grow. Whereas the problem with scarcity is it's not scarcity. It's not that there's not enough opportunity. The problem with scarcity is that it stops us from getting in the game in the first place. We sit on the sideline, or we act desperate, or whatever you were saying before. We don't act. We act with resistance. We're cautious rather than throwing ourselves fully into the game, and hence this is why it's such a determinant of whether we're in flow or not.
Bingo. And I was taught from an incredible mentor who said to me, success is inevitable to the person that's open-minded enough to continually try new things and never give up. And I think if you've got that abundant mentality that's going to work out no matter what, and you're open-minded enough to try new things and you never give up, which means that if something doesn't work, you might be running a business right now that's not going to be the business where you'll make all your money, but it's going to give you all the learnings that you need for the business, for the next opportunity. And so if you're in the abundant mentality and it's not going so well for you right now, you're still that totally confident that it's going to fall into place. So Adam, just a couple of solutions. I've got 3 here that I wanted to help people that I use that are very simple but very, very effective to help you work on your abundant mentality. The first one is visualize everything being taken away from you and being okay with it. And knowing that the worst that can happen is not death. I think that's what you said before, becoming comfortable with failure. So actually, always asking what's the worst that can happen and visualizing it, because it's never death unless you're doing some crazy business high in the sky and, could risk falling or whatever. But second one, such a simple one, give more. This is interesting because I often, when I'm feeling scarce, is the time that I need to give. I remember there was a patch where I was going through enormous scarcity. I lost a whole heap of clients. Money was going out quicker than coming in. And that's the time to give, because when you give, you receive. And I remember on that particular occasion, Adam, I actually went down to the bank, took $1,000 out and bought one of those magazines, The Big Issue. Can you imagine a big issue guy getting $1,000 cash? Like, for a magazine, he was asking for it on the side of the street.
He may well have been the dude that you fed breakfast all those years ago as well.
It could have been the same person. You never know. Probably was. This guy's just probably thinking, I'm just going to follow this guy around and prank him.
Yeah, that's it. I'm on a good thing.
It's funny because the teething, the giving, is subconsciously saying, I have enough. I've got more than I need. I'm comfortable giving it away. It's proven. It's a universal fact. Those that tease make more money, which is teething's giving away. They say 10% of the money you make. I swear on this, by the way. The more I give, the more I spend. And the third one is, instead of using the word spend, which is contracting, and spend saying it's evaporating, it's going, use the word circulate. So next time you're giving, you're at the supermarket or whatever, instead of saying, I just spent $100, use the terminology circulate. Because circulating is giving off an abundant mentality that it's just going out into the system, which is what it's doing, and it's coming back to me in a bigger proportion. Very simple, Adam. Do you have 1 or 2 solutions that you could share on abundant thinking that you've learnt?
I do. The first thing that my wife actually taught me this with abundant thinking is she said this to me years ago when I asked her. We'd met and we'd been dating for maybe a month or 2, and I said, hey, I'm moving from Brisbane to Byron Bay, which is a couple of hours drive away, and we only just really met. I said, I'm moving interstate, and do you want to come with me? And I said, you want to think about it if you like. And she just said straight away, yeah, okay. And I asked her about this years later. I said, why did you come with me? And what was it that made you do it? And she said, well, I've got this mantra when I'm making a decision, and if I've got a decision that I don't know whether I should take it or not, she asked the question, will this make the story of my life more interesting or more safe? So in other words, is this something that's going to make my life more interesting, or am I playing it safe? And that's her mantra. Is this going to make it more interesting or more safe? And so what she does is take risks. They're not, uncalculated risks, but her whole focus is not on playing conservative. It is about engaging life to have the full experience from it. So that's my first tip, I suppose, is to ask the question, is this activity, is this action that I'm going to take going to enhance or diminish my experience, I suppose. And that's all it comes down to. I really love when people take risks that come off. And interestingly, if you go to the movies, everything in the movies is generally about someone taking a risk that most people are not willing to take. I actually believe that, abundance allows you to break out of in a lot of cases, a monotonous experience. But it's all coming down to is changing the perception of what is risk. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this action. I'm going to invest in this thing. I'm going to try this new business venture, not just because I want to get out of my scarce situation, but because I want to enjoy the experience as well. And so that's my first thing. If I can, I'll just summarize that again. Is this action going to enhance or diminish my experience? So what that does is it takes us out of how is it going to affect me. It's just, is it good or bad? And the other thing, I suppose, is a Taoist philosophy again. When the saying goes, the ego views the world in the filter of good and bad. So in other words, this is bad, this is good. I only want good, I don't want bad. So in other words, we have a filter, good versus bad. Whereas it says the sage man, in other words, the sage man is someone who is kind of more aware or more enlightened, I suppose. But the sage man sees the hand of God in all things. So a lot of us are sitting there going, this is good, this is bad, I can't have good or bad. Whereas the more aware we become, the more we realise that there is no good and bad. If you have more, if you have less, it doesn't have to impact on the experience. So, I suppose my tip is play the game as much as possible. Make sure it's enhancing your experience rather than diminishing it, and allow, the higher, for lack of another word, the higher beings to allow you to have a great experience. Let them, let life give you a great experience as well.
Yeah, the simple affirmation for that, mate, is the universe has my back covered. I just think it's so simple and so easy. Yeah. The universe has my back covered. And I, from my experience, it just does. It's got your back covered no matter what. You're going to be looked after. And even if you were in a business that's going broke right now, maybe it's going broke to open you up to a new opportunity that you don't even, that's just around the corner. Sliding Doors, such a good movie to watch, to put, this whole thing into context, that there's no such thing as a good or bad. The bad thing might be nudging you towards the good. So Adam's nailed that. So we'd love for you to keep sharing this podcast with your friends, family that are business owners. You might have a couple of colleagues or know some others that just to recap and finalise, abundant living will definitely bring you more joy and happiness into your life, and ultimately more freedom, flow and fulfillment. So work on abundant thinking. Am I being abundant or scarce right now? Thanks, Adam. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
See you next time.